A shaboom. All right, everybody, welcome to Houston. We have a problem. Come to you live after dark on this Friday evening, or early in the morning for you Euro apes. All right, so uh, lots of things happening. Uh, the Justice Department announced that they're doing some sort of criminal investigation into short selling, illegal short selling. We have no idea who necessarily it involves, uh, but that's a big announcement. Um, the Chinese real estate companies bankrupt. They are defaulting like crazy. Some investigative journalists discovered that they had their TikTok accounts basically deplatformed, deleted by TikTok for talking about the Evergrande collapse. Um, we have Adam Aaron is selling another 300,000 shares of AMC. The CFO has liquidated everything he has. Other board members are selling. That is very interesting. He also came out and emphatically said there will be no NFT dividend, which I was telling you guys that was the case months ago, and people were harping on it because they can't. They don't. They're $5 billion in debt. They can't offer a dividend of any kind. Um, and what was the other thing? There was something else, and I totally put it in my description, and my brain is blanking right now. Oh yeah, massive dark pool actions happening. So like 80% of executions are going through the dark pools right now on the stocks we care about. So there is a lot of bad stuff. I need to give you a heads up. There's a lot of wind going on outside, and if my power goes out and my internet dies, I apologize. But we're supposed to be having 50-mile-an-hour winds right now, and recently we've not had the best of luck. So my guess is we won't see Grandpa Barney. He's probably out there putting power poles back together, so he won't be joining us today. And don't forget, next week is the monthlies slash yearlies options chain. And those suckers will probably start seeing some green. I'm thinking green next week for those options, and then jump in and do those fourth week of the month weeklies on Christmas week and see if we can keep going with the Gurk's idea, and then do it again in January, right? Okay. Okay, let's see here. What do you guys got for me? Because that's all the news at the top I have, unless you guys have more. Although it does, I must say, it does feel like there's an unnecessary amount of infighting going on in the like the ape community. A lot of people are at each other's throats right now, and I get it. You've been waiting a long time. You've put a lot of money into this. You're tired of waiting. Everyone's antsy. They got their anxiety. They've got all sorts of good stuff going on. And simmer down, chill, relax. Just just relax, man. We've been on this roller coaster before. We were at 250 like 3 weeks ago. Now we're at 150. It does that. It does that. We are in a heavily shorted stock that is massively owned by retail, and we're going to have roller coasters. We have monthly roller coasters. It's what happens. It's what we do, and so all we have to do is just snuggle up, enjoy a nice fire, have that wintertime breeze blowing around outside, and just know that it's going to do this. It's going to do this, and eventually it's going to do that, and just take off. So relax, relax, relax. Meow meow, super chats. Why do people always be abducted by the butt probe aliens and not the hey, here's a free pile of cash aliens? Are we in the proctology quadrant? Yes, there is a significant number of aliens who really want to go into the orifices. Now, I'm wondering if it's really aliens or if it's just that Cletus's friends got drunk one night and they did some butt stuff and they told Cletus, you're abducted by aliens that looked like your dad. Just telling you right now. Uh, that's my biggest guess. Because, I mean, once you've seen one butthole, you've seen them all, right? Like, there's nothing really too spectacular about them. I mean, you couldn't pick one out of a lineup. That's for sure. Okay. All right. What we got here? Pippin ain't easy. Good name. How long do you think the hedge funds can kick the can down the road? Well, I mean, they've done it for a year now. They've exhausted almost everything they have in order to last this long, and they are really trying to manipulate as many stocks as they possibly can to stay afloat. I mean, we're looking at, you get DocuSign has amazing quarterly earnings. Like they're up like 163% on earnings and revenue, and they're kicking butt. And for some reason, they get shorted down 50% overnight on those fantastic news like outlook of the future, and they just get hammered. Who owned all those puts? Citadel, right? So I think these guys are trying desperately to do whatever they can to maintain cash flow, because it is the money is tight right now, and they're feeling it. So I don't know if they can do it much longer, because I mean, remember, just GameStop alone is probably hundreds of billions of dollars in liability for these folks, and you can't. Who has got couple few $100 billion that they can just throw at something? No one. Not even the biggest funds that control trillions of dollars in assets can throw hundreds of billions of dollars at something. So I don't think they can do it for much longer. Ricardo Pestic, good evening, Houston. What could create the holes in this mountain? Latitude, longitude. Wow, let's see what you're talking about. Let's go to the Who'd What's It? Well, let's get the Google Earth up there. Come on, Google Earth. Where'd you go? There it is. All right. Shabam. I gotta delete the thing where it says longitude, because that won't let me go there. Comma, space, and go. Oh, whoops. Gotta take the negative out because get rid of the W in there. There we go. Let's fly. We're flying. We're going to... Where are we? Ooh, look at those big old potholes. This is limestone. So you can see the color right here. It's kind of gray. So these are sinkholes. This is a limestone. This is like ancient seafloor that's been uplifted, and any acid and water will easily eat away at limestone and make these big old sinkholes. So this is an erosion feature that's happening. So Sima Humboldt. Enormous sinkhole. Yep, located in plateau. Oh, you guys can't see that. So here we go. Enormous sinkhole located in the summit plateau of Sarisinama Tepuy in Bolivar State, Venezuela. It is unusual for several reasons, including its enormous size and depth. It's located top of Heli Forces Tepuy. Those are like those big, I don't know how to say those right, Tepuy's. They're giant mesas covered in forests. And named after Alexander Humboldt. Alexander Humboldt has more things named after him than any human being who's ever lived. You don't see it quite so much in North America. We've got like Humboldt, California, Humboldt County, Humboldt Current, but you go to South America and Humboldt is everywhere. And it's aptly in Bolivar State, because Simon Bolivar, who's the George Washington of South America, he was best buddies with Alexander Humboldt, and Humboldt inspired him to go back to South America and kick some Spanish ass. So, you know, there's a good old connection there. Yeah, so basically, if you get acidic water, it will sizzle away and erode limestone, and eventually the whole thing can crash and sink. And there's famous sinkholes that have happened. You know, they happen all the time in like Florida. They happen all the time in Tennessee and Kentucky. There was a big one that happened a few years ago underneath the Corvette Museum in Bowling Green, Kentucky, that like took out half the Corvette Museum. Just became this like 300-foot deep cavern. It's pretty awesome. Oh, god damn it! I didn't get to the part where people telling me, there it is, next one, Houston intro. Okay. Anyway, just from Dax, the SEC get the DOJ involved. Are they going to slap RICO charges against the hedgies? These are good questions. You know, the last couple of times we got headlines about short selling, investigations of short selling, like, oh, investigation short selling, everyone's all stoked, and it turns out to be like some fund that shorted some OTC stock $400,000, and the SEC jumped in there and arrested these guys. Like, who gives a rip? I want the guys who've been shorting things for like $400 billion, and I want those folks arrested. Hopefully, this is a turning of the tide. Um, we, if it's the big fellas that are being investigated right now, then at this point the DOJ or the SEC probably know that they're toast. Like they're not going to hit them up until they're absolutely they cannot handle the investigation. That's when they step in, or they didn't pay their lobbying bill or something. I don't know, but um, I hope that they get them for collusion. I mean, we can see these transactions happen in the crypto market, obviously, like where they're pumping one crypto coin from one wallet to another wallet, just back and forth and jacking the price up, and it's going between a hedge fund in New York and an option house in Chicago, and it's just going that is collusion. But in the crypto market, there's no regulation for that, so you get in trouble for it. But if they can tie the same action to hedge funds or option houses based on a stock, and they're colluding with each other, and they're doing it via those coded orders. I don't know if you guys have seen that stuff where what was the name of that guy? His southern dude, very slow drawl, and he was like he's like I can predict the price of any stock in 15 minutes, like by 15 minutes or so, because he can look at the layer two chain there and see exactly what these weird orders are, and the number of stocks in the order are a code to what price it should go to. What was that guy's name? I cannot remember. If you guys remember, pop it in there. And so, I mean, that stuff is collusion. If those algorithms are telling one hedge fund what to do with another hedge fund, and they're setting price points and manipulating stocks that way, that's a crime. They're not allowed to do that. I'm not allowed to do that. You're not allowed to do that. We're not allowed to do that. Okay. Meow meow. Ever hear of Gordon Michael Scallion, futurist who promised to lead humanity after the apocalypse? Friend of Art Bell? I'm thinking nut. Anyone who's a friend of Art Bell is going to be a nut job. I mean, I didn't really listen to Art Bell much. Every once in a while, I happen to be in the car and he'd be on, and I'd be like, "Wow, this is all batshit." But no, I've not heard of Gordon Michael Scallion. Let's look him up. I'm sure it is fascinating, whatever he has to offer. Gordon Michael Scallion. Gordon Michael Scallion. All right, I'll look him up. Maybe I have heard of him before and just didn't realize it, but we'll find out. Okay. Sportsman says, after January 4th, I pay less taxes. Woohoo! I'll wait until then. Oh, that's when you bought in. Good job, Sports Mom. B&M Beads Brigade is telling me to turn off the intro, of course. Robs asks, can you talk about the space diplomatic immunity laws and if they have been updated yet? Also, if they never change, what villainous plan would you use to take over space and then the world? Okay, so a large part of my master's thesis in space studies was about this. The laws have not been updated. The 1967 Outer Space Treaty is what all signing countries operate by to this day. And largely it was created to keep the United States and the Soviet Union from going to war with each other. So that's kind of why it exists. And what the idea was, basically, you've got Russians that are doing orbits, right? Anything can go wrong, and they may need to do an emergency landing. So if they land in North America, the Russians, the Soviets, didn't want these cosmonauts to be arrested and charged as spies. And conversely, got Americans orbiting, and if they get into trouble and they crash land in Siberia or something, they wouldn't get arrested and treated like spies. So they made them envoys of peace, which gave them diplomatic immunity. So if they crash land, it's the obligation of whichever country they crash land in to treat them well and return them to their host country. It worked well for 1967. The problem is that we are entering now a commercial space race where we've got private enterprise racing to do giant accomplishments in space, specifically to do space tourism and to mine space and establish what will probably become permanent colonies. Now, if outer space is governed by international law. And international law states that everyone goes to space is a diplomat. How do you prosecute crimes in space? Because diplomatic law means if a Russian commits a crime in space, then only Russia can charge that person with a crime. No one else can. So if a Russian commits a crime on a Greek guy, Greece can't be like, I'm going to charge this man with crime. They can't do that. Only the Russians can because they signed an agreement. Conversely, if an American person murders somebody in space and it happens to be a Spaniard, Spain can't charge the American with murder because they have diplomatic immunity. Americans can charge the Spaniard with Americans can charge the American with murder. And we're going to get into a really crazy loophole gray area where so much wealth is going to be generated in outer space with precious metals, with helium-3 and other rare elements in space, that you can establish an entire pirate colony that's state supported. So you can have, we'll use the Russian government again, because the Russian government has an incredible space program, and their entire economy depends upon carbon fuels and metals, right? They're mining and they're sucking things out of the ground. And if all of a sudden all of our fuel is coming from the moon and all of our metals are coming from asteroids, the Russian economy does not exist, right? So the Russians can go into space, rob Jeff Bezos of all of his platinum or gold or whatever he's pulling out of an asteroid, steal it, sell it in the black market, and the rest of the world can't do anything about it. They might be able to put some sanctions on Russia, but Russia can be like, oh, they're just bad actors. I don't know who these people are. But they can basically get away crime free. It's kind of like what's happening with the crypto scams that are being run in Russia. The Russian government has a law that says you cannot scam Russian citizens, but the law specifically leaves out foreign citizens. So all these big companies, these big mafia groups that are doing hostile takeovers of people's computers, ransomware, things like that, they're targeting non-Russians and holding their computers and their data for ransom because the Russian law says, yeah, you can do it, comrade. And they have some of the biggest office buildings in Moscow that are devoted and paid for via these scams. So if we have a giant Chinese colony mining helium-3 on the moon and it's staffed by 100,000 people, it may not be staffed by Chinese. They may go to Philippines or to Malaysia or to Brazil, and they may gather up a whole bunch of people to go work and throw them up in the space and go work on these mines, and they may not be subject to international law. So if the Chinese try to punish them, the Chinese could be facing sanctions from the host countries. And if the host countries don't punish them, the Chinese could sanction the host countries. So there's lots of weird things that can happen with that. Now, one of the hypotheticals that I did in my master's thesis was based upon a fictitious Elon Musk type, right? So right now, Elon Musk, I don't know if you guys saw a week or two ago a leaked email talking about how if the Raptor engine for the new heavy lift doesn't get finished soon, that SpaceX is going to be bankrupt. And financially, they have to do 2 launches a month in 2022 to be able to keep afloat, because the government might cut them off from funding. And their Raptor engine is really far behind. Now, let's say that the Raptor engine isn't ready and NASA pulls a whole bunch of their funding and is like, guess what? We're going to give this stuff to Boeing or to Lockheed or to Blue Origin or something. You guys are done. You can't perform. You aren't doing what we need you to do. And as in the response, our fictitious Elon Musk type goes, oh yeah, well, I'm going to move all my company and all my operations to Libya, because Libya never signed the 1967 Outer Space Treaty, and I got cheap labor, and I'm going to fund it from there. And so this person moves everything to Libya, and then launches, goes, lands on the moon, and plants the flag of Libya on the moon, and claims Libya now owns all of the moon. And the International Committee goes, you can't do that. There's an international treaty. Well, Libya never signed the international treaty. They are not abiding by it, nor do they have to abide by it. And it costs so much money to get people to the moon that Elon, or this fake Elon-esque type person, could mine enough helium-3 to make so much money by the time the rest of the world got its act together to do something about it, that they would now be in control of our entire energy market anyway. And so the trillions of dollars it would cost to kick them off the moon would be too late, because they would already made quadrillions of dollars off the energy markets. So it's that's kind of the Bond villain way of looking at it. And I don't know, I think it'd be pretty cool to like write a story about that kind of thing. Okay, purportedly stupid, super chatted. Second intro is my favorite part. People talk about making changes post MOAS, but what's the best vehicle to affect meaningful change post MOAS? Post MOAS. Vehicle like financial vehicle or vehicle you drive? Um, or like just way in general to affect meaningful change. I think the best way and most concrete way to affect meaningful change is to help those around you. Like you can throw money to faraway places. It's really hard to manage that. It's really hard to know what happens with it and where it goes. But you can directly help those around you, and you know where that money's going and how it's being used. That's probably a best way. Uh, and putting money towards lobbying. Our system is stupid. Let's lobby to end lobbyists. Right? Let's have a big old lobby and end lobbying. I don't know. Uh, yeah, well, to affect meaningful change, it's huh. Yeah, I have to ponder on that one. The best way to do it. I guess we'll think about what kind of meaningful change you want to affect. Okay, meow meow. Couldn't we generate electric power using ocean waves and currents? One hurricane could power us for a decade. Maybe impossible? Yeah, I mean, a hurricane produces enough energy to power the United States for X number of years, but to harness that is damn near impossible, and to store it is probably even worse. Um, I we have some crazy ways of storing energy, like we have say windmill or solar power, right? The unused windmill or solar power, they'll use it to pump water uphill and store in a reservoir, and they store it in its reservoir, and when the wind turns off for a day or it's cloudy, they can release some of that water and run it through a turbine and power things that way. So it's a way of storing that power. Tides are set by the moon, so you have guaranteed tides every day, and you know exactly how strong they're going to be. Wave action is also, it's like wind and solar. It's not always on, not always happening, and they're not super efficient yet. So we're working on that, and like windmills have improved greatly, and solar power has improved greatly. The tidal power, we haven't quite gotten that stuff dialed in yet. But yeah, they're using it. I mean, the first ones that went in was about 20 years ago in Scotland. These tidal wave action machines that float on the water and pump these pistons and generate all sorts of energy. We've got more now that like work like turbines. So you might have them in the mouth of an eddy or a bay, and when the tide comes in and out, it turns the turbines. But then you're only turning them like 2 hours for 2 hours every 6 hours or so. Just from Dex. Hypothetically, what would happen if nobody pays back their student loans when they come back due in 2022? Should it all be canceled? Yes. I think cancel the student loans, pay people for the loans they paid off, reimburse them, cancel it all, and make state schools tuition free. Just do it like you do high school. Just extend it. If you want to keep learning, you can go learn. We need people trained. We need an educated workforce to be a 21st century economy. Not everybody could become a welder or a shop tech or an HVAC guy. We need engineers, we need scientists, we need doctors, we need lawyers, we need all sorts of college educated people to operate our economy, and we shouldn't be thrusting $100,000 in loans on 18-year-olds. Like, you're not going to let an 18-year-old get a $200,000 loan to buy a house. Why are you going to give an 18-year-old $200,000 to get an education, and then when they graduate, all of a sudden have to pay more than what they could ever earn in a salary? It's silly. Other countries do not burden their young generations entering the workforce with this kind of debt. It's locking up a lot of debt. It's pushing out people getting married or having children or buying homes by decades, and it's silly. We need to change that. I was thinking about, if they won't cancel student loans and people aren't paying them back, right? You create a nonprofit, a 501c3, and a 501c3's job is to assume the debt of these from these student loan companies, like the promissory note, right? And so let's say somebody owes $100,000 in loans. There's no way they're going to pay it back. They have no intention of paying back. They move to Kiribati or Somalia just to get away from paying their loans, and this debt is sitting there. And you allow Sally Mae or Navient or whoever the opportunity to donate that debt to the nonprofit, and then they get a giant tax write-off as a result, and the nonprofit just forgives the debt. Can you imagine that? I think it'd be kind of awesome. You could set up this nonprofit, get trillions of dollars in delinquent debt donated to the nonprofit, and basically force the government to pay off those loans via tax rebates to the loan companies. I should talk to a lawyer about this and see if we can get it done. Because I mean, what's better? You have $100,000 delinquent loan that this person's not going to pay. You can't find them. You can't. Maybe they're earning money under the table, so you can't like withhold their taxes or dock their pay. And you're not going to get that money. So this money's adding up. So wouldn't you rather have a $50,000 tax rebate than to like go through all the courts and pay for the lawyers and get all this stuff and just donate that promissory note to the nonprofit and forgive the debt? I think it'd work pretty well. Maybe that's a MOAS thing, a MOAS vehicle we can use to affect change. We can wipe out student debt that way. It's kind of like when John Oliver bought the $60 million in medical debt for like $15,000 and then just forgave it all. I thought that was awesome thing to do. Yes. Okay, I need water already. We're half an hour in and I'm thirsty. I like these Friday nights. You guys are all over the place and I love it. I don't know if you saw the interview I did with Bulldog Trading on Wednesday night, but I going in, I had no idea what to expect, and Adam had me bouncing all over the place and asking me questions. Like, I loved it. It was so diverse, the questions. It was fantastic. Okay. Master Bilbo, Houston, happy birthday. Would you be able to talk about your general understanding of blockchain and Web 3.0 and what it means for the future? Thank you for second intros. Oh, man. Well, okay. So Web 1.0 was the introduction of the World Wide Web. Hypertext Transfer Protocol, World Wide Web, and like GeoCities pages, and people inventing search engines, and everyone's looking for porn and whatever. And that ended with a dot-com bubble in 2001 or so, and that all crashed. Web 2.0 was the emergence of platforms, your Facebook, your MySpace, your Instagram, your Twitter, your Amazons, and like these web services companies, and the users were dependent upon that platform. Like they didn't have the freedom to move they had different accounts on different services, and so you have to log in here and log in there, and so it's all disparate and it's not connected. The fantasy of Web 3.0 is utilizing the blockchain so that we don't have these giant server farms somewhere, but everyone's home computer verifies everybody else, and so you can move from platform or social media from one to the other on this Web 3.0 blockchain seamlessly, and you might have tokens that allow you to like vote on things, or tokens that are worth money that you get rewarded with for use and whatnot. How real that is for a future, I don't know, man. There's probably a lot of privacy implications involved. I mean, if you look at a ledger of a blockchain now, you can see what wallet is using what. And if every person is connected to a wallet, then we might have some issues if everyone can see what everyone else is doing. People are like, don't look at me. But that's kind of the gist of Web 3.0 is that we move from these huge platforms to like this egalitarian, everybody has a free love society and all their computers are connected to all their computers and verifying each other's movements, and that's kind of how I see it. Meow Meow also asks, do you think Hindenburg and Citron will cooperate against Citadel and friends. Will they throw Griffin under the bus? Depends on what the punishments are. I mean, if it's you go to prison for 40 years if you don't give up Ken Griffin and Citadel, they're giving up Ken Griffin and Citadel. If it's like you're going to pay a $700,000 fine if you don't tell us what you want, then they're not going to say shit because they know what side of their bread is buttered. It all depends on the punishments that would be laid out. Historically, financial malfeasance generally doesn't have big punishments attached to it. It's usually some kind of slap on the wrist that is just the cost of doing business. So, yeah, it depends on if they're facing hard time or billions in fines, something like that. Okay, did I miss anybody's super chat? I think I got them all. All right, cool. But I'm not even to the part of the chat where the show had began yet. So we are getting out of here. Okay. I don't know if I can say this one right. Niemix Huynh. Citadel is giving everyone Christmas presents by shorting GME down to 150 so that everyone can buy some. Used my Christmas bonus and got 3 shares today at 150. Good job. I bought some options for next week to see where they go. And I bought them thinking like, oh, we might see some green today. And then everything crashed and went, oh no, I should have waited. And then it went back up again. So I'm totally flat and even. But I think we're going to see some green next week as we approach these yearly options. So I'm betting on it. We'll see. I didn't have too much money to throw at them. I don't get paid for another almost 10 days or so until I get paid. So not too much to play with. But, it's worth a gamble. That's what I do. Shimmer. Super chat. So we all know how much the richest person is worth in the top 1%, but how much is the poorest, least wealthy worth? Oh, I just read something the other day that showed like the top 1% owns, 80% of all the wealth on earth, and the bottom 50% owns like 8% of all the wealth on earth. It's a big gap. And we don't even know actually how wealthy people are. We know declared wealth, which, puts Elon on top, Bezos, Bill Gates, Larry Ellison, guys like that. They're in the 100 billion range, whatever. But there's also undeclared wealth. And undeclared wealth probably puts Vladimir Putin at the top. I mean, in 2014, his estimated net worth was $200 billion. And you can imagine what it's grown to since then. It's probably at $1 trillion by now. If Elon Musk in 2 years could go from 30 billion to 300 billion, what can Putin do in 7 years? And then, there's stats we see about offshored wealth. And there's like 40 trillion American dollars offshored from the US into foreign accounts, right? So if there's $40 trillion, maybe it's 400 trillion, something ridiculous that's been offshored, and that's undeclared. The people who are sending that money to offshore accounts, they're doing it because they don't want to tell Forbes or the U.S. government that they have this wealth. They're taking it and they're feeding it into these accounts. So there's probably a lot more wealth to these people, and maybe people who might be worth more than Elon Musk that we just don't hear about because they offshored everything. Yeah. Jeffrey Schaefer, no question. Just saying you should eat a Hot Pocket on air. It's Friday. Why not? Just wait till the end of the show in case your tummy gets upset. I had some really spicy General Tso's earlier. My tummy is already upset right now. Man, that was breathing fire, man. Meow meow. If the options chain doesn't MOAS us by February, we'll at least drain a lot of their remaining liquidity. I hope, unless they're figuring out their own pattern with it and buying into it and getting their own cash out of that system. But I think there's so many shares locked up in December and January's options chains. Let's see if we can look at this. Got to go to scene. Got to go to turn off the Google Earth. Go to. Oops. Sorry. Got to turn on the Chrome here. Wait. Oh crap. Sorry. One sec. Go back. Go back. Go back. Okay. All right. There. Got the Chrome. So it. All right. Click on that. We go. Is that this? No, that's not it. Where is? Ah, wrong thing. That's my Streamlabs. I mean, do that one. Why? Oh, there it is. Okay. Finally, that's the other window. This is the banana I left on last time. Let's do options chain. Okay, so calls for December 17th. You know, at 80 bucks, there's only a couple of them. And we're getting to the thousands here. 200s, thousands. So that's what was traded recently. All right, and what's the big one for January? January 21st. Okay. There's some thousands. Got thousands at $1.50. Okay, that's good. This is the big one. Thousands at 60 bucks, 1,000 at 100 bucks, 1,800 at 200 bucks, and some big ones in the $300 range. So we have a lot in here. A couple thousand, the $600 range, some of the 700s, a boatload at 950. Holy smokes! So we got 37,000, almost 38,000 at the 950 range. Those things must have been really cheap when they were offered. So, wow. Okay, so we've got a ton of shares that can go in the money, and if they go in the money, it will drain the option houses for sure. They won't have the cash to deal with. I mean, if these things are going up to 900 bucks by then, which who knows if they will. But in the puts, how big of the puts do we have in the deep range here? Not too many in the deep range. There are people who bought, 15 people bought $950 puts. Wow. All right. We got a bunch in the 300 range, a bunch in the 220s. Those will probably pay out. Man, all right. So, yeah, there's some folks who are looking to make some money off that stuff. But I think the big thing is if they're learning their lesson and they're dumping cash into these options chains, some of them may weasel their way out of it and make some money off of it and get some more liquidity and might last a little longer. It all depends on where they're putting their cash. That's the big thing. Okay. Brian Romero, after MOAS stock crypto houses Lamb 50% off. Explain what? After MOAS, stock crypto houses Lamb 50% off. The Lambo's 50% off? Is that what you're saying? I mean, you'll probably get a lot of them at Marshall's auctions, like U.S. Marshall auctioning off Lamborghinis, if that's what you mean. You get the cheap ones that way. If not, you may have to be less cryptic with your crypto question there, and I can maybe answer it better. Best of the rest, 222. Houston, are you familiar with economic hitmen? Would you dive into how such tactics would be used against USA, market adversaries? Could the lack of impactful regulation, real jail time, be used to destroy the USA? Yeah, one of the books I recommended people was Confessions of an Economic Hitman, which, did I leave it on my desk? What did I do with it? Where are you? That was a couple months ago when I told everyone to go read that book. thought I had it over here, but it's not there. That's where it was last. And then I put it somewhere. Did I put it in here? Did I lend it to somebody? What did I do with Confessions of an Economic Hitman? David Sedaris. History time. Where are you? And I keep kicking your bone, monkey butt. That thing hurts. What did I do with that book? I thought it was right there. All right, sports books. A's. What'd I do with you? I cannot find you. I had you. I talked about you. I waved you in front of the computer, and then I put you somewhere, and I have no idea where I put you because you weren't in the spot that I had you last time. And monkey butt, what'd I do with that book? What'd I do with that book, buddy? What'd I do with it? Confessions of an Economic Hitman. Where are you? I didn't take it to the other room, did I? Did I give it to somebody? Ah, cripes. Ugh. Nope, not that book. Well, anyway, I wish I had the book I could show you, but I have no idea what I did with it. Oh, it's on this shelf. Damn it. Ha! I knew I'd find it eventually. John Perkins, he's a neighbor of mine. He is a New York Times bestseller. There's a more recent edition that's been updated. This one is from 2004 or so, but it is a fascinating read. So Economic Hitmen, their job was to essentially destroy the economies of other countries and force them to purchase U.S. goods. So we would do things like Jamaica might have had financial trouble after they got their freedom from the British, right? So, they get free from the British and they all of a sudden don't have the economic support of the British Empire and they're running into some financial troubles. And so the World Bank and the IMF come along and say, hey, we can stabilize your currency. We can give you some loans to improve infrastructure and do things like that. And the Jamaicans really have no choice. They're like, yeah, we have to do that. We're in a global economy. We need money. We need to be able to improve infrastructure. We need to be able to feed people and get the kids educated and whatnot. And so private banks would put up the money through the World Bank or the IMF to do these loans. And the private banks would have investments and backers who are also funneling money through here. So they might say things like, the United States government and these U.S. banks will give money through the World Bank to Jamaica as long as you allow milk imports from the United States into your country. And Jamaica's like, we don't need milk imports though. We have plenty of milk production here in Jamaica. Why should we allow milk imports? Because the U.S. government says, because if you don't, you're not going to get the $20 billion you need to keep your economy afloat. So Jamaica gets strong-armed into, okay, we will allow U.S. milk imports into Jamaica and please give us our money. So they do things like that. And then all of a sudden, the U.S. government floods the Jamaican market with super cheap milk that basically prices out all the domestic production and kills off every local farm in Jamaica. And now they got a whole bunch of people that are out of work and they have to buy U.S. milk because there is no local production for this milk anymore. They would do things like that all the time. And in the 1990s, when the South American economy collapsed, Brazil was in desperate need of loans and to stabilize their economy. So they got, the numbers, I can't remember the numbers exactly, but they got like $32 billion from the World Bank. And a lot of this money came through like Bank of Tokyo, Bank of Mitsubishi, Bank of Tokai, Union Bank of California, also owned by Mitsubishi. And the caveat was we'll give you this money, but you have to use this money to build a hydroelectric dam. And Brazilians like, okay. And you have to hire Mitsubishi Electric to build the dam for you and operate it. And I'm like, oh, okay. So the Bank of Tokyo and all these other Mitsubishi subsidiaries give the Brazilian government $32 billion. The Brazilians then give the $32 billion back to the Bank of Tokyo via Mitsubishi Electric, who then operates the dam and makes profits off of it. And then the Brazilians owe $32 billion that they just spent. So basically the money went all all the way back. And then they owe it again. It's kind of like those NFT crypto scams you see right now. Like you got one guy, he makes the NFT over here, he uses other wallet, he buys it, and all of a sudden the NFT is worth $1 billion. They do that stuff all the time. Now what we're seeing is the United States is failing miserably in this economic hitman game, and China is starting to kick the shit out of people in it with their soft diplomacy. So China's doing things like going into the Congo and like, hey, we will build you roads here in the Congo as long as you give us, sole access to this coltan and tin or gold or uranium or whatever. And the Congolese were like, all right, we need a road. And all of a sudden, boom, China builds them a road. The road was built with a money that was a loan, so now the Congolese owe them for the road, and then also owe them the rights to these minerals. They might build ports or airports or school systems or other infrastructure, and they'll economic hit these other countries with this infrastructure to get sole access to rights for minerals and resources, as well as make them owe them for all the money they invested in the first place. This is a really fascinating book, and John is a really cool dude. If you ever have a chance to, if he does a book signing or does a book tour, meet him, chat with him. He's a cool guy, and I totally recommend this book 100%. I had an old roommate that dated his daughter for quite a long time, but it's a fascinating read. Okay, who's super chat? I just missed someone's super chat. I totally did. Don Van Dudeward. Houston, I think you have more faith in GME than AMC. How high can AMC go when MOAS? Is it hundreds, thousands, tens of thousands, or hundreds of thousands? I am losing a lot of faith in AMC. I'm going to be totally honest. The board is out there to destroy the company, and they've been doing their best to destroy the company for the last year, while feigning as if they're trying to save it and do better. If they're trying to save it and do better, they would have saved it and done better. And now we've got Adam Aron dumping 300,000 plus shares again. The CFO just liquidated his last holdings. Other board members have filed to sell hundreds of thousands of shares. They're jumping ship. They're bailing. If AMC wants to be viable, there needs to be a shareholder revolt. And the retail owns 80%, 85% of the company. They need to demand accountability and put apes in charge. Find the most kick-ass person who owns a boatload of shares of AMC and make them chairman of the board or CEO or something of AMC. Otherwise, these guys are going to destroy every chance you have at a MOAS. I mean, come January 1st, they reserve the right to sell another 25 million shares and dilute the holdings even more. And I think they all know what the writing on the wall. They took huge bonuses last year with losses, and then Adam Aron's like, oh, I gotta sell my shares. I have to make money somehow. Dude, you made $21 million in January. Did you burn through $21 million already? I mean, if I had $21 million, I would probably live my entire life and still have $20 million left to spare. It's I don't know if AMC can survive long enough with this kind of stuff happening. They're $5 billion in the hole. We've got more variants of COVID coming out, which may cause shutdowns, which may cause the stock to get legitimately shorted again. And a lot of investors are seeing the actions of the board and going, you know what? I'm going to sell my shares. I'm going to jump over to GME or whatever. I don't know if they are the play they were 6-7 months ago when the price was running to $77. I'm really disheartened, and I keep hoping that Adam Aron and crew have learned a lesson and are changing their ways, and then they just do the same thing again. I have no faith whatsoever in the board at AMC. They are bad. They're bad for business and bad for their investors. I don't like them. I don't trust them, and they are really trying my patience when it comes to how far AMC can go. I'm getting of the mind, just dump AMC, jump into GME, and hang on to that. They're they've done nothing. They've done nothing to instill trust in me as an investor, and they could have, but they made the wrong choice every single time. Yeah, sorry, man. I just don't see it happening anymore. Just from Dex, do you think they will impose a 30-day halt during MOAS? What would happen to all the buy pressure? Um, they could, but I think what would happen is they need to close these books when MOAS starts. They need to close the books as fast as possible. And if they do a 30-day halt, it doesn't give anybody the chance to close these books. Now, it may give them opportunity to raise capital or get bailouts from the government in preparation for something big happening. But what's going to happen is these buy orders are going to pile up and pile up and pile up and pile up for 30 days. Then all of a sudden they turn off the trading, the prices can go to the moon. You will see volumes that are just insane because all these buy orders will have piled up and piled up and piled up for 30 days because no trading is happening. Yeah, so I don't. If they do a 30-day halt, it would probably be so that the government can get bailout money ready to go to bail out these investment banks and primary brokers and whatnot. But it would mean the price would instantly just go to the moon when that 30-day period is over. Okay, so I am 51 minutes behind in the chat. Holy smokes! But I will get to these super chats because they're the ones that pop up and they're bright green. I can see them right away. FTD's nuts. I like that. Once MOAS starts, what do you think the odds are of the government doing a fixed payout on GME shares to close short positions? How else could they do it? I think a fixed payout would probably be the most likely outcome that the government does in a situation like this, is they negotiate a fixed price. And they say, okay, we understand you guys want a pile of money. We negotiate a price that's $64,243 a share and take it or leave it. And you've got 15 days to decide or something. And if you don't, we're going to erase this stock. GME will have to reissue stock and we'll start all over again. That is my guess as to something like that would happen. Again, it would cause a huge loss of faith by international investors in the system, and it would put off retail investors big time. They would be pissed off. And so, the short hedge funds are a damned if they do, damned if they don't situation, because the short hedge funds require sucking wealth out of retail investors in order to make their money. And if retail investors go, you know what, I'm out, I'm going to go somewhere else and invest my money somewhere else, then the hedge funds are damned anyway, because there's no one they can steal their money from. They have to turn on each other. And that's what happened in 2008 when these companies ran out of companies they started shorting banks. They started shorting Goldman Sachs and Bear Stearns and Lehman Brothers. And when Lehman Brothers and Bear Stearns went under, they were shorting Goldman Sachs, and Goldman Sachs went to Congress and said, put a stop to this. So Congress passed a law that said you cannot short naked short financial institutions, and that's the only group that's protected by the law. So if they don't have us to pick on, who are they going to pick on? They're going to pick on each other, and it's just going to eat each other up, and king rat will survive. Yeah. All right. Okay. I am only an hour behind in the chat. I'm finally to 7 p.m. on the timeline in the chat here. So if I scroll too far, those may disappear forever. Ed says, people are saying the squeeze won't happen until 2022, 2023. Is that true? I don't know. I mean, the squeeze will take a catalyst, and that catalyst will probably be somebody needing their money. If the economy, just the bottom falls out of the economy, then someone's going to need lots of money, and they're going to be forced to do margins and liquidations and all that stuff. If the economy somehow stays afloat through all this, which is be the weirdest of miracles, because we've got so many problems going on. We've got trillions of dollars of defaults happening with Chinese bonds. We've got tons of evictions and foreclosures happening in U.S. housing market. We've got a supply chain problem. We've got a corporate debt bubble. We've got a real estate market that's cooling off. We've got a commercial real estate market that is abysmal. As people are discovering they can just work from home, and companies are like, well, I don't need to lease 1 million square feet of office space anymore. I can just have everybody work from home. Boom, just save $20 million a year. Uh, we've got COVID still. We've got it's just there's just a lot at play. Inflation 6.8% this month. Uh, Most in like what 40 or 50 years, the highest inflation rate in 40 or 50 years. Um, yeah, I just don't think I don't know how the economy is going to stay afloat. I just don't. One of those things has to give, and it's going to affect things in a big way. Uh, and if that happens, then the MOAS is on. The minute those assets under management shrink too much, it's MOAS time. And right now we have it shrink too much, and they pump some crypto over here, dump things, and they're able to like meet their liquidity requirements or capital requirements and stay afloat. And then the market goes right back up again, and then they do it all over again. So something's got to give at some point. We've got more margin in the market as a proportion of the market than any time in history. The amount of margin has basically more than doubled in the last year and a half, and there's so many folks trading fake money right now that I just don't see how we get out of this. There's a bubble that's got to pop at some point. James Hebb, in my opinion, you're still going to do quite well with AMC, irrespective of what the board does. Plenty of meme stocks have bad boards, and it will rip at MOAS. I do think it will rip at MOAS, no doubt about it. But the souring of the investors, and because AMC has so many investors, if an appreciable percentage of them go, you know what, I'm going to jump ship and go to GME or something, that could mean huge volumes and huge sell pressure and drive the price down quite a bit. It's yeah, the board's not doing anyone in favors. The folks, the investors need to propose a new board and vote for them and put people in charge who will pay off that debt, who will do things to get the company righted, and yeah, and work that way. That's AMC's best bet. Okay. Timus Luigi came here for the interesting topics. Stay for the technical difficulties. Goodness gracious. All right. Supreme Pig Roach. Houston, what do you think about the President's Secret Service head working for Citadel? I think that's shady as hell. That's what I think. I mean, what does a Secret Service guy offer Citadel as a financial wizard? What qualifications do they have? Like, they're connected, obviously. That's probably what they're for. But I really don't see, like, are they some sort of financial wizard? They took their pension plan and tripled it? I don't know why. It seems shady, is what I think. It's, yeah. Peachy Sunday, people trying to cross GERK because the next option cycle is coming. That's why I heard that there was some sort of post on Superstonk and people were just torching Gherkin. They're idiots. There's a lot of infighting going on, and I'm just so sick of it. I'm sick of it. We're all into this, I've got uber right-wing people in my show. I've got people on the left in my show. I'm not in agreement with a lot of people who watch my show politically, but we still agree on one thing, and that is the hedge funds suck. There needs to be regulation, and MOAS is coming. That's all we need to do. We don't need to fight about all these other things. People will look at patterns, and humans are really good at looking at patterns and identifying, repetition and cycles. It's what we're good at. It's what separates us from a lot of creatures. And it's not hard to look at the graph of these stocks and go, oh yeah, there's a cycle happening. We can see that. It's happening here, it's happening here, it's happening here, it's happening here. Uh, it that's just how it rolls, man. So I I just people, chill out. Chill out, man. there's there's we're looking for the green pastures. We don't need to be yelling at each other and screaming at each other and getting in fights and squabbles and I don't know. I just chill out. James Hebb. That being said, I love Ryan Cohen for AMC. Doesn't hold a candle to GME right now. Thanks for all you do, buddy. That's true. If we had somebody, a Ryan Cohen type, become a chairman or CEO of AMC and jump in there and just start like wringing out the bad juju of that company, I think that's what's happening. I mean, we know the cycle of how these short attacks happen. They short the company, they naked short the company. They have one hedge fund that will have big holdings of the company and force their people to become members of the board or chairman or whatever and become insiders of the company. And then their job is to destroy it from within. Now, when Ryan Cohen got his huge chunk of shares last year, one of the first things he did when he became chairman was get rid of the dead weight, get rid of these insiders from the hedge funds, the guys that were there to destroy GME. What has happened at AMC is that all the people that are there to destroy AMC are still in charge of AMC, and they're just giving us lip service. And they're saying, buy and hold, you guys are apes, so I'd love to be part of the apes. I'm going to sell all my shares, up yours. Ignore me, ignore the man behind the curtain. And that's what I'm seeing out of the board people at AMC. Rose Moon, would 50 shares of GME or even a single digit share of GME during MOAS be enough for me to retire early at 20? I hope so. If you do it right, I think you can. If the price of those shares get into the millions at the peak and you were able to take care of some of that and sell some of those at the peak, then yeah, I mean, if you can sell a share for $4 million, you can make like 200,000 plus a year off just the annuities of your investments. I think that's pretty comfortable retirement, right? That's basically, you can spend all the time just traveling and doing whatever you want. And at 20, that'd be an awesome age to just fuck off and see the world. Right, monkey? Yeah, stretch it out, buddy. Stretch it out, buddy. Yeah. Yep. Getting that ottoman is the greatest idea I ever had. It was like, you know what? This poor dog is like laying at the floor staring at me all the time. Let's put her at a comfortable level where I can give her pats in the head and she can roll her eyes at me constantly. Okay. Dan Summit, Houston, which GME YouTubers are your favorite? Why? And do they think MOAS is inevitable or just possible? Oh man. I mean, the GME guys, Girk, Trade Spotting, Rocky. Those three are just kings among men. I like Stonk Money. Yeah, those guys are they're cool, man. There aren't too many GMEers. I don't get a chance to watch too many of them. I can watch like clips here and there, but it's hard to like keep up with everyone because there's some guys that are doing 8 hours of content a day, and there's no way I can watch 8 hours of someone's show. I just can't. So that I am terrible at it, and I have no ability to do it. But like, I appreciate when I can get clips, like someone goes on a rant, and I can get a nice 5-minute clip. That helps like condense things down for me. But like, if I had any production value whatsoever of my show, I would love to be able to take these clips and throw them out there so that people have like little digestible bits, and that probably help my channel greatly. But Who's got time for that, man? I don't. I don't have time to go back through and watch my 2-hour show and mark these things off, and I need a producer. Um, but they're just lovely folks to talk to. They crack me up. They got good hearts. Yeah, yeah. So there you go. Um, Richard Newswinder, what's up, Mr. Houston? Is dong currency a good investment? I don't know. You can buy some dongs if you want to. Someone always finds a use for a dong, I guess. Um, Great, Houston. It's our birthday today. But like every year, I'm stuck studying for a final, biochem this time. Can I get some encouragement to keep studying? By the way, what kind of bird is a hummingbird? A hummingbird is not a crow. That's a hummingbird. Hummingbird's a not crow. Uh, study for that biochem. Um, Man, it's been so long since I had biochem. So long. I remember my biochem course. I don't actually remember much about it, to be honest. it was one of those classes where I was like, okay, and once I did the final, it just went gone. Chemistry is probably my weakest subject. My brain just jettisoned all that the minute I finished any of my courses. So good luck. My best friend's a biochemist, and he remembers all that stuff. He can do any reaction you want. Amazing. But I did not retain any of that. I can read the stuff and go like, oh yeah, but if you ask me to recall it, not going to happen. Yeah, so good luck. Good luck with that there, grape. Deborah Hartley, have you seen IWM short shares availability went to 0 tonight? iShares BlackRock. Yes. The Russell 2000, right now, the top of Russell 2000 is AMC and Avis, I believe. And they've got like nothing left to borrow. So we might see some interest rates on those suckers start to pop up. Deborah Hartley says Boss Blunt's video tonight was fire. Must watch for all apes. Again, I'll have to get that one. Oh, so many things I gotta watch. All right, I'm only an hour and 2 minutes behind in the chat. We'll get there. We're so far behind. Brian Romero, Houston, do you see mansions and Lambos and luxury goods at half price after MOAS? That was the question you're asking in the blue. Okay. All right. That's what you're asking. Yeah, I see a lot of it on discount. There's a lot of folks who can go to prison and their stuff's going to get auctioned off. There's a lot of folks who are going to lose their houses and that stuff's going to get auctioned off. So pay attention to the little blurbs in the back of the newspaper and look at the was it govsales.gov or whatever that site is. It will show you all the auctions for U.S. Marshals and IRS and whatnot. There'll be lots of Lamborghinis and Ferraris and Hummers and shit for sale on those. So, keep your eyes peeled. And you might be able to get that luxury house, the $10 million luxury house for a couple of $100,000 at auction on the courthouse steps if you're lucky. Hi, Houston. Happy birthday. It's from Daphne Berry. The other night, caught your interview with Bulldog, and you mentioned something about technology to capture and transform carbon. Can you speak on that? Yeah. Carbon. I call it carbon sucker, carbon sink, Squamish, BC. Carbon Engineering, this is it. Okay. These guys. So Carbon Engineering is a company based out of Squamish, BC. This is a render of one of their big plants, but they have a working plant in Squamish, British Columbia, up Howe Sound, just north of Vancouver. And they can suck out, 10,000 tons a day of carbon from the atmosphere. So they suck the air in, they do some sort of chemical reaction to pull all the CO2 out, and then they can convert that CO2 into either hard carbon or even back into liquid fuel and burn it again, turn it into gasoline or whatever. it's a pretty crazy system. Ideally, if they had something like 10,000 of these machines around the world, they could suck out enough carbon out of the atmosphere to make us carbon neutral as a planet. Um, but the machines are big. They take up a lot of space. They cost tens of millions of dollars to build, if not more. So the ability to put this many machines out there all over the place is damn near impossible without government purchase power. So unless like the big governments of the world, the big first world countries go, okay, we're going to invest in 10,000 of these machines and we're going to build them all over and we're going to suck the carbon out, it's not probably not going to happen, and will just remain like a curiosity here. But they got this. This is their test facility in Squamish, right there on Howe Sound. I think it's not too far from the Britannia Beach copper mine. But yeah, they got this machine here. It's a small scale one. They're just pulling carbon out of the air and then turning it into like ethanol or into other fuels. And they can take that stuff also and sink it in the ground so it's hidden there forever essentially. Carbonengineering.com is their thing, and I will just copy if you guys want to check it out. Paste and send. There you go. That's what they're doing. It's a pretty cool thing. Deborah Hartley says also the Fibonacci says we're gonna rip. I hope so. I think we're gonna see some green next week, and I hope we do. Aaron Celentine, did I say that right? Celentine. If one whale selling it would go down only like $1. They coordinated the short AMC and GME through the ETF. That they have meme stocks in them. I think you're right. There's Brian Romero asking. Okay. So no more as an AMC. Are you putting limit orders? Well, I mean, AMC, I think will still squeeze. I think it will be in the package of those ETFs, the basket of ETFs. And they're still going to squeeze. But I think it's just, I don't think it can go as high as I thought months ago. I think people are kind of getting tired of the board of AMC, and they're finding other meme stocks to love, at least a good portion of them. Yeah, that's something. But limit orders, yes, that's my plan. Is when it happens, limit orders. That's what I'm going to do, and that's how we're going to do it. Yeah. You want to know how far behind in the chat I am? I am now to the point where everyone is saying ha 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 about my second intro. So we are an hour and 3 minutes now behind. You guys asked me so many questions here. See if we can get to them all. Oh, and I got the screw from a microphone. Come here. So I just now need to get all attached to the computer, but I've got the blue. It's here, and next show I can finally attach this sucker and get it going, and you won't be on the headset anymore. Wouldn't that be lovely? Nice, deep, rich voice through a quality microphone. You guys would love it so much. And then get this thing off my head because my ears get really warm. And I'm talking louder and louder and louder because I can't hear myself. And my roommates probably hate it. So there. Okay. Nater Baked Potato. Do you think Gary Gensler directed DOJ to probe short hedge funds to prove a need for an oversight exchange system that monitors all trading activity and protect market integrity and investors? Well, I think it's wise that the DOJ is doing the investigation, because if the SEC was in charge of it, the people would blame the ensuing crash on the SEC. But if you've got the Justice Department doing it, right? They're not the SEC. They're just be like, hey, there's a bunch of crimes here. We have to solve these crimes. But if the SEC does it and says a bunch of crimes, everyone's like, oh, you're putting your thumb on the scale. How dare you crash the economy? So I think it's wiser to have the Department of Justice getting in on this and probably doing RICO and other conspiracy-related investigations I think it's a smart move. Whoever said to do it, that's the way to go. Okay. Um, oh, Grandpa Barney's here. There we go. There, he's in the chat. Grandpa Barney is wondering if you're ready for our next storm. Are you ready, my man? I've got the headphones on. I can hear the wind outside through them. I don't know if you guys can hear it on here, but yeah, it's blowing out there. Probably wake up in the middle of the night to my battery backup on the computer screaming at me and waking up everybody in the house. But that's just how it goes. Get used to them. So Beans Brigade Gaming says Citron is the main hedge fund being targeted with this DOJ thingy. Apparently, I don't know what side of the meme war Citron is on, but interesting to find out. And if what they're talking about is collusion between hedge funds, then they're probably going to draw lines to other ones. Might be the one that they're starting with. They probably got some sort of whistleblower that's going to get a few $1 million and whistleblower money out of that. Andrew Stewart, Russia and Ukraine tensions are on the rise. Does Russia make another move like in 14? What geopol pool balls hit the other ones? Yeah, man. So my students were actually asking about this today because with the math class I taught, I finished everything last week. We have no finals, so show up to class today. I'm like, I got nothing. Ask me whatever questions you want about anything. We'll do it like my podcast. And the first thing I asked about was, is Russia going to invade Ukraine? I was like, oh man. So Russia had the Sochi Olympics in 14, right? It's the Sochi Olympics, rah, 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 Russia, Russia, Russia. The Olympics got done, and Ukraine was talking about joining NATO. Ukraine's like, hey, maybe we'll join NATO because we don't like Russia. And Putin invaded, took over Crimea, and then there's basically been an occupation slash warm war happening on the eastern side of Ukraine. So if we go to Google Earth, get out of the Humboldt area here, and fly to the Slavic nations here. Okay, so we got Big Mother Russia, we got medium-sized Ukraine down here, and you can even see they put a border on the Crimea Peninsula. So Sochi is down here. Putin's big old mansion palace is on this peninsula. I can't remember. It's somewhere along here, I believe. Is Putin's giant $1 billion mansion palace thing. Nope, that's not it. I thought it was along that one, but maybe it's this part down here. Where are you, Putin Palace? Wherever it is, somewhere down here, along the Black Sea. He's got this giant $1 billion palace estate that he built that is its own private city, blah blah blah. So the Russians took over, so they got disputed border going here. They took over Crimea because let's face it, Russia's got really terrible access to lots of ports, and Crimea is a very significant sea port along this peninsula here. In eastern Ukraine, on this side, during the Soviet era, there were lots of Russians that moved into this area, and vice versa, Ukrainians that moved throughout Russia. And when everything got delineated, they cut some traditional borders, and all of a sudden, a bunch of people that are more apt to identify themselves as Russian than Ukrainian were living on this side. So the Russians invaded, claiming that they're protecting, these ethnic Russians that are in this region. And as a result, there were huge sanctions put on the Russian government and people in Russia, like powerful mobsters and politicians, and they had their accounts frozen. So imagine you are Putin and you've got $200 billion locked away in some offshore account, because that's what you do. You are essentially a crime boss who runs a country because it's a kleptocracy. And all you do is you suck wealth out of your country and you offshore it in Cyprus and the Caymans and Panama and wherever. And you don't have access to this money anymore. It is gone. It's frozen. The U.S. government says, nope, you can't touch that money anymore because we wrote the banking codes for all the computers. Now, Russia just lined up an obscene number of troops and tanks and missiles and also troops also along the Ukrainian border, threatening to do another invasion. It's partly due to there's a pipeline that comes from Russia through Ukraine and services Western Europe with natural gas. Germany gets a lot of its natural gas from Russia, and so there's a big diplomatic row because there's sanctions going on. So you shouldn't be getting your fuel from Russia, but Germany needs that fuel so people don't starve to death. And Germany shut down all the nuclear power plants, and so they need the energy. They do after Fukushima, and now the Ukraine they want money for it's going across their land. They want some compensation for it. Russia doesn't want to compensate them, and so Russia is threatening to basically invade. And part of that, I think, is a bluff scheme on Russia's part, because after Biden has had a short phone call with Putin the other day, all of a sudden a whole bunch of accounts got unfrozen. So it must have been some sort of like Russia's like, I'm going to invade, and Biden's like, don't you dare invade. And Russia's like, hey, if you give us our money, we won't invade. So Biden was like, okay, and that totally just capitulated. What I think the answer would be is for Kiev to sign with NATO and become a NATO member, and then Russia can't touch them anymore. They can't even do the soft wars. They can't do anything because their occupation of Crimea would violate the NATO protocol, and NATO would be forced to kick Russia out. It's the only thing keeping like Latvia and Estonia from getting invaded right now. During the Trump administration, the Russians amassed a huge number of troops along the borders here, and the Trump administration was trying to get us out of protecting these two countries. And these two countries are like, hey man, we need this protection, we need NATO, otherwise Russia's gonna take over. And the obfuscation by the Trump administration to try and like not protect these two countries didn't work. So right now there's like this weird Cold War going on. So Belarus didn't like Russia, but once they realized that democracy was going to prevail and they clamped down harder, they embraced Russia. And so now they got this plan where they're just dumping tons of migrants through the Polish border, trying to destabilize Poland with a migrant invasion. And there's lots of sketchy stuff going on in this whole mess right here. I don't know how it's going to turn out. Honestly, don't. I don't like war, and I wish we wouldn't war. But, war is one of those things that people just do. And it's kind of inevitable. Anyway, back to Big Houston. Hopefully happier topics. Okay. All right. Man, we're already an hour 23 into the show. All right, we got Friendface McRiffhard has got coordinates for you. We are Northern Hemisphere, Eastern Hemisphere. Oh, go to there. No, you can read it. Please tell me you can read it. Oh, that's your problem. Let's see if... Oops. Nope. Try that. Nope. If I throw a comma in there? Nope. Do a space. We'll try to fix this, McRiffhard. See if it makes it work. Go. No, doesn't like it. Sorry, McRiffhard. We tried. We're not going anywhere with that one. Kith, Citron to apes. We understand short interest better than you, and we'll explain how now brown to go. I remember those tweets that Citron was throwing out there last spring, and they're like, You apes, you mongrels, you half-wits, you don't know what's going on, you know what's good for you. And they were like just cruel tweets full of just bitterness and hatred. And they're going to prison. so, so Citron, you guys can suck a fat one and deal with it. Swivel on it, punk. Okay. Justin Kappa TV, can you explain the ghost cities in China? Why they keep building empty cities? How does this benefit the government? Economic gains would only be short term, so why they keep doing it? Thanks. Yeah, there's a lot of ghost cities in China, and those have been around for since before the mortgage crisis collapse in '08. So China has a bunch of people, and they need to put them places. And they tried to do master planning and figure out, okay, we can expand these hinterlands and put in big skyscrapers and apartment buildings and factories and put those people here. Well, they never attracted the factories to go in there, and because the factories weren't there, the people never came. And because people never came, they never had people to work in the factories, and so like, oh, we'll try again somewhere else because they have to spend the money and do a lot of this construction, and a lot of that construction power and cash went to building things in areas where people aren't, which took money away from building the things in the areas where people are, and they used the money people spent on down payments for those places on these ghost cities. So we got quite a few of them. Let's see if we can get some cool pictures here. Need to go there. Need to turn off the Google Earth. All right, so we got quite a few of these things. Big, large ones. I mean, got huge skyscrapers and stuff that got built up, and state of the art, whatever. And the people just aren't there. The factories never came. The people never came. Huge tenements, just gigantic, and there's no one there. I mean, you look at these things. There's no cars. There's no people. They just remind me of these like large scale Lego housing that got built in like Stockton, California, where like adjustable rate mortgages, subprime mortgages were king, and the people just weren't there. They're just trying to flip houses and flip houses, and no one was living in these things, and just emptiness, but on just a massive scale. Lots and lots and lots of them. Uh, I don't know if any of them managed to get filled at some point or what, but there's a lot of them. There's a lot of them that got built. These are just impressive buildings, just massive, absolutely massive. Yeah. So there's a lot of them, and if you build buildings in places where people live, they'll occupy them. If they build them where people don't live and there's no jobs, they're not going to end up there. So I don't know. I think it'd make for some great Bond villain movies in the future. Can you imagine like a Bond villain owning like an entire block or something of one of these cities? That could be a great Bond villain location. It's cool stuff. Cool stuff. Okay. Well, now I'm to the point where everyone's arguing about student loans. Like, here's my take on student loans. My dad's old. He went to college in the 50s and early 60s. It was $200 a year. $200 a year for tuition, room, and board for him to go to college. Minimum wage was $1 an hour, $1.25 an hour. So you could work 200 hours, like 4 weeks, 5 weeks over the summer, and that would pay for college for the entire year, including all your food and expenses and everything else. Today, minimum wage is $7.25 an hour, right? And college is $50,000 a year. So you cannot work for a month and pay for college. You have to work for 30 years to pay for college. And the way the loans are structured is that if you pay your minimum payments on loans, the interest and principal are still growing. So I have a friend who, first in her family to go to college. Her parents were immigrants from the Dominican Republic. Uh, they didn't even have high school diplomas. She managed to get into a good school, went to USC, doing what she should do, go to a good school, to take out loans to go to school. And then she got into a great grad program at Yale, had to take out loans to go to Yale because they didn't have the financial wealth, they didn't have the family wealth. You have to just take out the loans. That's what you do. And her $80,000 in student loans that she's been paying on religiously for like 10 years now is now $135,000 in loans. She hasn't touched the principal even once because she can't afford to do it. This is a dumb system. And it hurts the larger economy as a whole when you impair your workforce and make them essentially debt slaves to the system. Like, you want to give young people the opportunity to flourish, and our system is not set up in a way to allow them to do that. It just isn't. And we didn't create society to maximize profit and drive revenue. We created society to make all of our lives better, to take some of that burden off each other. And we have royally fucked up with the student loan situation. It's dumb. It you know just make school affordable or tuition free for state schools especially. The sports programs make more than enough money to take care of it. Make it so that college basketball coaches and football coaches get paid a maximum and can't earn any more than the highest paid state employee. It's we've got a dumb system, and there's so much bureaucratic administrative overhead with the student loan system that the number of administrators are so top heavy now that there's actually some colleges have more administrators than actual professors. And because they got to deal with how to figure out these student loans, they got to do student recruitment so they can get all of the student loans. So student loans pay for everything. And it just changed the system, man. It would save so much money in the process and everyone time and heartache and headache. And student loans are dumb. They're dumb, 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 dumb. Why should a student have to take out student loans to pay for a college when that college has like a $40 billion endowment? I mean, they could literally pay for every single solitary student to attend their college and probably not even touch the principal at the end of the year off their investments in their endowment. So why are they charging 50, 60, $70,000 a year for these students to go to these colleges? It's silly. It's silly. Just cut the overhead for all those administrators. Just like the hospital system, insurance makes hospitals expensive. If you get rid of the insurance companies and just make it a universal system, you get rid of all the administrators, and all of a sudden it's cheap to run the hospital. It's so simple. It's so simple. Okay, Flight Guy's got some coordinates for me. Boop-a-doo. Where are you, Google Earth? Come back to me, friend. Hopefully these ones work. Yeah, we're going somewhere. Where are we going? We're going to, my neck of the woods. Here we go. We're out here. We're in the forest. Outside Olympia. We are in the forest. Oh, the Mimas Mountains. That's where we are. Yeah, these things are weird. No one knows how these things formed. Look at these guys. So these are called the Mimas Mountains. They probably were a result of glaciation, perhaps. No one's quite sure. But they're just like weird piles of dirt and gravel that are some sort of natural formation, and no one knows why they exist. And they're about, they're pretty big. Some of them are like maybe 10, 20 feet across, 10 feet high, like little bubbles. Some of them have been ground down and turned into farm fields and whatnot. There's an airstrip or something here. But Mimas Mounds are very weird indeed, and they're a large area. I mean, look at all these bumpers. It's like the surface of a basketball. To this day, no one knows how they formed. Not a clue. And people's yards have them. Mima's Mounds. I wonder what they look like in the forest. I've never been to the forest in the area to see what they're like. But they go on and on and on and on. Mima's Mounds are all over the place. How far south do they go? There's some here still. Here's some out here. Some more Mima's Mounds. It's a pretty large area. They get a little smaller when out this way, but they still exist. Do they cross the river at all? Any Mima's Mounds out here? Come on, give me some. Give me some. Give me something. There's might be some in here. Yeah, there's Mima's Mounds out here. It's quite a large area that has these things. Yeah, they have no idea what formed this stuff. So looking at a pretty big area. How many miles across is this? Oh, come on. Oh yeah, I mean this is looking at least 40 square miles of these suckers here in Washington. Very strange things indeed. Oh no! My internet may have died. Did it knock out my internet? Ah, crap. The wind may have done it. Is it? Oh, no, it's coming back. It's coming back. Okay, we're on a little bit of a delay. I think the wind is blowing and kind of knocking things down right now. Yeah, so this area is like, yeah, it's pretty cool. If you have a chance to go through Washington, go hike through the Mima's Mounds. They're pretty neat. So Olympia's here. You go south of Olympia, south of Tumwater, out towards Rochester, and the Mima's Mounds are out by Little Rock and what little town out here, Little Rock and Bordeaux. Yeah, I think this is the state park, Mima's Mound State Park, I believe. Yeah, it's cool. It's cool. All right, back to Big Houston. Thank you, flight guy. I'm sure you flew over that and were like, well, that's cool. Why should you send it to Houston? Or you from that area, you know what Mima's Mounds are all about. William Morgan says others managed to pay theirs back. It's called budgeting. Not very many of them. Not very many of them managed to pay back their student loans. Most people are stuck paying them for almost their entire lives at this point. They're super expensive. Again, my dad's entire 7 years of college. He went to college, did mechanical engineering and architecture, and his entire 7 years of college cost less than 1 month of my student loans. That's crazy. You know, the cost of school has gone up. Let's bring out the calculator. Let's bring out the calculator. Gotta turn off the Chrome, turn off the Google Earth, and we're left with the calculator. All right, so if, let's say, $50,000 a year for school divided by my dad's $200, so we're looking at 250,000% increase. 250,000% increase in the cost of going to school between 1960 and today. Minimum wage has only gone up 725%. So how do we rectify that? Oh, sorry, 25,000%, not 250, 25,000%. I got that wrong. How do we rectify that when minimum wage has gone up 725% and tuition's gone up 25,000%? It's unsustainable. It's just not. So we need to change the system and make it better for everybody. And part of that is going to be wipe out the student loans, reimburse everyone who paid their student loans off. Give everybody that fair start. Because otherwise college becomes only something for the rich. If you're like, hey, if you can't afford college, don't go. Well, guess what? You just destroyed the point of having a meritocracy. You know, the most talented of us should be able to go to college. We should not be relegated to sweatshops or working menial labor. That is not how we make a great country. There's a great Stephen Jay Gould quote, which I love throwing out there. I'm going to get that quote because I don't want to butcher it for everybody. Stephen Jay Gould. Einstein. Oops, I can't spell. There it is. So Stephen Jay Gould, I am somehow less interested in the weight and convolutions of Einstein's brain than the near certainty that people of equal talent have lived and died in cotton fields and sweatshops. So if we remove the meritocracy from America, which is already pretty garbage to begin with, there's studies out there that show, if you are born poor and have a genius level intelligence, you are less likely to become wealthy than someone who's born rich and is dumb as shit. There's plenty of research out there showing that if you're born rich, you remain rich. If you're born poor, you remain poor. So if we make the one true ability for folks to climb the socioeconomic ladder via education impossible for them to achieve by making it impossible for them to pay it off, then we lost. We lost as a country. We no longer have the ability to become the great America. We just don't. You want the best of us to be able to be great and do great things. And if you relegate us to, flipping burgers and picking up trash when we should be designing space shuttles and making computer programs because we can't afford school, it's silly. My friends, I grew up in a wealthy place, and my friends, almost none of them have student loans. Their grandma paid for it, their trust fund paid for it, and when they were 23 and they graduated, they were able to, take an unpaid internship for 6 months or a year and work a job, this entry-level job, into something that was high paying later. If you are a poor person and you have $100,000 in loans because that's what it takes to go to school, you cannot afford to take an unpaid internship as your entry-level position at a company. You're screwed from the get-go. You're going to graduate with your degree in the sciences or arts or whatever, and you're going to be working at a restaurant because it pays you cash immediately, and you're going to be stuck in that job for 30 years, never using your brain the way it was meant to be used. We have a terrible system in the U.S. Norway has figured out how to pay for school for free. Germany's figured out how to pay for school for free. France has figured out how to pay for school for free. Why can't we? If other people can do it, why can't we? If they can produce just as good education as we can at the university level, and they can do it at no cost to the student, why can't we do it? What's wrong with America that we can't figure that out? And if you look at their taxes aren't any higher than ours. Between federal taxes, state taxes, local county taxes, and the cost of health care, we pay just as much as they do as a portion of income towards this stuff, and yet they can figure out how to make their schools free, and we can't. It's dumb. And it's probably because we spend so much money on the military, but we can do better, and we should do better, and we need to stop burdening everybody with these stupid expenses that can just be written off and done away with. Okay. I'm only like an hour and a half now behind the chat. All right, I'm going to scroll down, and we are going to get far down here so I can get some of the more recent things here. Okay. That way, sorry if you were in the middle there and I totally missed your chats, but we're going to try to get down here towards the end because we're at 8:43 and I got maybe like 17 minutes left. I have to take people to the airport tomorrow and wake up early to do that, so I got to get to bed. Okay. All right. Find Putin's palace, please. Okay, it's somewhere. It's in here. I have to go back to Ukraine here. It is really big. It is. All right. Let's go to Russia, to Ukraine, to Russia. Black Sea. I'm gonna find you Putin's palace. This Black Sea palace is somewhere in here. All right. My internet is acting a little slow at the moment. It is just the way it is. Okay, Putin's palace. It's somewhere in the trees. I know that. It's got to be one of these. Give me pixels. Give me pixels, damn it. I know I can see it from space. It's just that big. Come on, give me pixels. Give me pixels. No, that's not it. I don't think that's it. Where are you, Putin's palace? Maybe it is closer to Sochi. But I thought it was closer to Crimea. Crimea River. Is this it? That's not big enough. It's bigger than that. Putin's palace. Oh, this is it. This is Putin's palace. So here we go. So Mis Idokapas. Yeah. The house is gigantic. How big is the house? Let's do. So the house itself is more than a football field across. That's a decent sized house. So you're looking at 300 feet in one direction. That's a big house. It's got its own deep sea port. So it's got that. So whatever this is, I'm not sure. Helicopter pads. Looks like it's got its own vineyard. It's got several outbuilding houses and weird meeting spots, and it's got like gun garrisons and all sorts of things. This whole place cost over $1 billion to build. This must be the bunk houses for all the staff. Yeah, it's a big estate that encompasses an entire mountain on the edge of the Black Sea, and it's wild. It's a big place. So if you want the coordinates for it, oh, quit. I gotta put a pin in, don't I, to get the coordinates. Copy, paste, and copy, put a comma there, and paste. If you want to see it, those are the coordinates for it. This place is big. It's a very, very big private multi-billion-dollar house that he lives in. So not too shabby. Not too shabby. You know, if you're a megalomaniac leader of a country of kleptocracy, you might as well have a nice big house. That's kind of what you do it for, right? More power to you, I guess. All right. Natsuka Hirabayashi, are you pooping on AMC again? Yeah, kinda. Or at least the board at AMC. People keep asking if I think the government will intervene during MOAS. I think if the government intervenes, they're going to cause more problems than they would have if they don't intervene. I think the government needs to just let the market play. That's the whole reason the market exists. And if you mitigate the risk that people take on through all this naked short selling, then you're telling them it's okay. The government's got your back. And I don't think that's okay. I think they should be destroyed. Project Sun asking, have you ever gotten to Billions or Secession? Both extremely stellar, well-written productions. I think you'd like. I know lots of people who watch Succession. I have not seen it yet. And someone else will tell me I should watch Billions, but I think Billions is on Showtime or something. I don't have access to Showtime. But I could watch Succession because I do have HBO. Streaming HBO, whatever Go or whatever they call it now. Max, HBO Max. I've got that. Project Sun, Houston, what are your thoughts on the Battle of Seattle? That was a wild time. That was November 99. The WTO meeting came to Seattle, and there was protesters, I don't know, 40,000, 50,000, 100,000 protesters that showed up to protest. And the police cracked down hard. I could get to school. I was going to Seattle Central at the time. I'd gotten hit by the car in San Diego and couldn't start school. My brain got rattled, and I came and I started taking classes at Seattle Central, and I couldn't go. I just couldn't. The police blocked off everything. There's no way to get. I have an eyelash on my eye. It's just driving me up the wall right now. Get out of my eye. There you go. And yeah, the city cracked down really hard on the hippies and just threw them all into buses and arrested them all and hauled them away. And I mean, even one of the delegates even pulled a gun on people at the protests. I don't remember which country he's from, but he's like, "I got my gun," and then the hippies tackled him, and he wasn't arrested, but the hippies were. I don't know if I have too many opinions on the Battle of Seattle, other than the government, the police crackdown. They like smashing hippie skulls, and the police crackdown. I think they violated a lot of humanitarian laws in the process when they did that. And yeah, but people became more aware of the WTO from that event than they had previously in the past. Natsuka Hirabashi, Houston, is there proof GME shorted more than 12% beyond? Trust me, bro. Gherkin couldn't answer that. I mean, the short interest reports last week were showing that it was shorted 113%. So it's way more than that. The short, they were shorted 230% January of last year, and they did not close. The short positions did not close. They just covered and moved debt swaps around and did sketchy things like that. So there's GME is shorted an incredible amount compared to its float, for sure. I mean, if you go to Fintel, institutional ownership as of last spring was 150 million shares. There's only 50 million in the float. How do you own 3 times the float in just the shares of GME? Okay. All right. Shirley, I could watch 8 hours of you. When we Moaz, please walk us through. I mean, I would love to be able to do 8 hours, but I don't know how those guys do 8 hours in a day. I honestly don't. I cannot. I have to like, I taught for 2 hours today. My voice is already tired. I don't know how those guys do it. Do like the entire trading day. That's a lot of talking. I don't know if I can do it. If I was interviewing people more, I can banter better than I can like just talk at folks all day long. It is a physical skill to be able to do that. Richard Newswinder, seriously, my buddy's dad said take $1,000 to the bank and purchase dong currency. Within a couple of years, worth 3 to 4 million. I think he said it has something to do with gold. I have no idea what dong currency is. Dong currency. Well, I'll have to find out. Never heard of it. It may be worth $3 or $4 million, or it may just be one of those. Is it crypto? I don't know. Maybe one of those pump and dumps that happen with all sorts of stuff. Ba, ba, ba. Um, Black Udon, my university is always asking me to donate while they expand student housing with high tech that's further away, but never bother with the closer, older buildings. They can go get bent. Yeah, I do find it amazing. Like, oh, you got $1,000 a month of student loans to pay off. Can you donate to our college? No, I can't. Why don't you hit the people up who didn't have to take out student loans? Kenneth Bean, what are you saying? Memeless mounds? Mima. Flavik guy, yeah. M-I-M-A. Mima mounds is the name of those little bumpy things that are in Washington. And seriously, geologists have no idea how they formed. They dissected some of them and looked at them and like, I don't know what the heck formed these things. Not a clue. Daphne Berry, don't forget to ask everyone to hit the like button. Yes, hit the like button. Tell your friends. Subscribe. Share. Yeah, those things. Thank you. I never remember that stuff. Daphne Berry says, Houston, I think you, Boss Blunts, Al, Trey, whoever else may have command of AMC audience should chat about your ideas, forcing a change in the AMC board. Yeah, they should. I mean, can you imagine if we got some sort of weirdo billionaire in charge of AMC who just didn't give a flying flip-flop as to what anyone thought and was like, you know what, I'm going to write this ship because I got nothing else to do and let's do it. It'd be pretty awesome. But we've got a bunch of like old geezers who care about their handicap at the golf club and not making their buddies who are their classmates angry because they all wear the same like Harvard Business School ring or something. Yeah. Flight guy, Lake Washington, I'm crazy. I'm sure Lake Washington is like waving right now. I mean, I can hear it roaring out behind me. If I had this microphone going, you guys would be like, "Shut up! The wind is so loud." But we're doing the headset today, which I can actually have dialed in. Okay. Wilson Solorzano, Houston, have you read about the Chinese rover on the moon that's heading to a mysterious cube-shaped object? I have. I was trying to find a good picture for everybody on the last show, and we really couldn't find one that was zoomed in really high, but there's a weird little bumpy thing on the horizon, and the Chinese say it's going to take days for the little rover to make it out there, and who knows what kind of rocks are coming in the way and what kind of snake pattern it's going to have to take to get out there, but they're going to check it out, see what it's all about. Yeah. All right. All right, it's almost 9 o'clock here. I don't have much more time left on my voice or the fact I need to like go to bed and wake up at 5 o'clock in the morning. Airports, man, they're the worst. Okay. Daphne Berry, Houston, what are your favorite news sources, both network news and print sources? Christian Science Minor used to be what our professor requires to read when I was an international relations student. Christian Science Minor is pretty good. But they cut a lot of their news department recently. I subscribe to the local community paper, the Bainbridge Review. I subscribe to the Seattle Times. I subscribe to the Washington Post. I subscribe to the New York Times, and I subscribe to Le Monde Diplomatique. Those are the 5 that I have online subscriptions for. But I do read, if you get a whole bunch of browsers and you can clear cookies, you can usually get a whole bunch of free articles from New Yorker, Forbes, Wall Street Journal, The Atlantic, etc. And you can kind of round out a whole bunch of your sources to read. I spend a lot of my time reading journal articles just because that's what you do if you are in the sciences. You have to read journal articles and give opinions on them and stuff. So there's that. Yeah. Oftentimes, sometimes there's weird sources that'll have hard-hitting investigative journalism. You might have like BuzzFeed. All of a sudden, we'll have some story they've been working on for 6 months. You're like, what? Aren't you supposed to make like listicles? What are you doing giving a hard-hitting story? Or Daily Beast or whatever. You might weird things. But I don't necessarily subscribe to them. But if they pop up, I'll read what they have to say and go through it and try to verify whatever's going on. Those are pretty much what I go through. My dad used to get the Christian Science Monitor because he used to be a Christian Scientist. But yeah, decent paper. All right. Okay. Let's get one more in here and then call her an evening. It's always a pleasure doing the Friday nights after dark. I think my favorite show of the week. Next week, no, week after. I was gonna say, remember Tuesday the 21st is our Charity Tuesday. It's gonna be Christmas week for Toys for Tots. Hoping to have Laser Haas, the former CEO of eToys.com, on as a special guest for that show. Because why appropriate? Have a guy that was got his company got naked shorted and short attacked, and raising money for Toys for Tots. Right on. So look forward to that. That's in 11 days. And let's see here. Boo, 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 boo. All right. Anthony Wilson, guys like Jason pull and stream 8 hours a day because they're in their 20s and need streaming income. Not a bad option compared to getting a job at that age. Yeah. It's yeah, if I knew this was an option, like I really wish when I did the Kickstarter to make Houston, Get Your Rocks Off of Houston, my geology show, you couldn't monetize. There was no monetization on YouTube, and I wish there had been, because I would have just turned that into a geology YouTube channel and used that money to like travel for 6 months making videos. But instead, we did it the stupid way and made like a production quality television show to show everybody. And oops. So, maybe this whole internet niche micro celebrity thing may turn into me getting to travel the country smashing rocks for TV someday. But until then, I'm going to try and figure out how to do this. Yeah. Okay. All right. Number of letters, you become a pilot, which is smart not to have wings. I've got friends that are pilots. They'll take me up every once in a while. Okay. Is that it for the evening? Is that all we got for you guys? Monkey, do you want to say goodbye? Yeah? Oh man, the wind is howling out there. Well, Grandpa Barney, enjoy your night. I'm sure you're going to be awake for the next like 40 hours putting people's things together. I'm going to say good night, everybody, and I'm going to head to bed. And wish you all well. I'll see you Monday for our show. And hopefully the new mic will be all hooked up and ready to go, and it'll be fancy, and we'll be on the headset, and it'll be cool. You ready? All right. Let's do it.